All right, we have USF on the road at UTSA. UTSA, 15.5-point home favorite, and this game carries a wonderful over-under of 67 points. The reason I brought this one up is because I think that there's some intrigue to it, at least in this line, and something that I feel pretty good about. But this one kicks off Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. This is the first ever meeting between these teams, but that's not the only interesting thing on the board here. There are 3 6-0 teams currently at the top of the American. We have UTSA, SMU, Tulane. UTSA and Tulane play on Black Friday next week. If UTSA wins this game, this could set up a winner-takes-all spot in the AAC title game, or the first of 2 back-to-back matchups. Either way, I think it's pretty interesting. SMU is Memphis and Navy on tap, so we've got a pretty fun race, I think, developing here. UTSA is coming off 6 straight wins out of their bye week. They've looked much better than the 1-3 team that start the year that lost to both Houston and Army. But the average power rank of these opponents during that stretch is 108. Plus, when they played Rice did not have JT Daniels. USF, well, they rank 112th in my aggregated power rating, so not much of a difference here. But I think that this will matter against when we talk about the game against Tulane, when we compare average point margin and strength of schedule, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that one next week. Only Jacksonville State runs a faster pace than USF on offense. That's a big influence from Alex Galesh, who came down from Tennessee. I think he's doing a great job. 5-5. How about it for USF? I think this team had a 2.5 over-under win total, or 3.5. Maybe it got steamed up to preseason. Their quarterback, Brian Brown, he's the definition of a gunslinger. 11.2 average depth of target, 20 turnover-worthy throws, but also 2,500 yards and only 8 picks from all those turnover-worthy throws. So he's having a pretty darn good season, I think. The pass game also runs a lot through slots. Sean Atkins, he's the 3rd leading receiver in the AAC. UTSA, on the other hand, has been very good against the pass this past year. I think it's their strongest unit on the entire team. Cam Alexander is the top-rated coverage corner in the American, according to PFF. Their issue defensively, though, tackling. They are not a very good tackling team. When you're talking about an athletic team like USF, even if the ball's going downfield, not so much a rack or a yak team, that can still cause some issues. However, the Bulls' biggest pitfall this year, finishing drives. They're 88th in points per quality possession, but they are 27th in generating those quality possessions, which means they're not getting in the end zone when they have a sustained drive that pushes deep into opposing territory.
I don't have their preseason win total right in front of me, Brett, but I will say my preseason realistic expectations said that 5-7 was the most likely record for this USF team. 55% chance to win 5+ games, 30% chance to go bowling. So not suggesting that USF had the loftiest of expectations, but I do think my numbers were a little bit higher on them than Vegas if folks were on that one from the start. But Brett, as you mentioned, this is going to be it already has been, and it's going to continue to be a very fun conference championship game race. I mean, we've got 2 weeks left in the regular season. You got 3 teams undefeated at the top. It's absolutely phenomenal. I know.
I remember last year being like the most convoluted conference championship scenario if you looked at all the ifs and buts for all the teams. Of course, those being the ones that departed for the Big 12.
Yes, and it makes it more interesting, though, here in the American, because remember, the number 1 seed, that the team with the most conference wins, will end up hosting this game. So it's not just, what color you're going to wear, what bench you're going to sit on at the title game. It's, no, you're playing in your stadium, which is a huge advantage, especially for a conference that has aspirations of putting their champion in the New Year's Six. So there's a lot on the line here the last 2 weeks, as you mentioned. Brett, I just got done talking about how, I kind of thought USF was going to be primed for a pretty good year, at least relative to expectations. I'm not sure they're built to pull off the upset in this game in particular. I have UTSA minus 15.5. It's an 86% win expectancy for the Roadrunners. And you said it. UTSA's won 6 straight. They're playing at a different level now than they were early in the year. I mean, it's a different team. The offense is humming. It's climbed all the way to number 43 in my unit rankings. That's important here because the USF defense, they've been dreadful this year. They currently rank number 128. Again, we have 133 teams. This is a bottom 6 team in my defensive unit rankings. But the offense, on the other hand, for the Bulls, currently ranked a season best number 74. And going up a UTSA defense that ranks number 70, I do think that side of the ball will be a pretty even matchup. But the mismatch for me, it's on the other side, as I mentioned. This game's in the Alamo Dome, And the fact that just so much is on the line for UTSA, as we talked about with the conference championship game still in reach, or not still in reach, but right in front of them, I just don't see this game being all that close. USF surprised me before this year. They certainly can again. I just think UTSA is going to be locked in and ready to go here. Bottom line, UTSA minus 15.5, 86% chance the Roadrunners move to 7-0 in conference play and set up what you said would be an absolute showdown next week.
Yeah, you mentioned being the 6th worst defense in the country. You don't really have to go back all that far to see that in action, considering USF scored 50 points in a football game that they lost to Memphis, 59-50.
I know.
Fun, but not great. I'm going to be honest here, Kelly. I think I lean USF with the points. Okay. Offensive potency, potential look ahead for UTSA. I know that they have to take care of business, but boy, that Tulane game, that's big in the window that they may be looking at. And I know this is a little narrative street, but I like to bring a little bit of everything in here, and I kind of think it does matter. Jeff Traylor's name is all over every open job in the FBS right now. And I know that he signed like a 55-year extension, and he's come out and said, I'm a San Antonio guy. I want to stay here. And I love that. But what happens when Texas A&M dangles like, I don't know, $12 million a year in front of him? To say that that's a non-factor right now, I think is a little foolish. How much of a factor it is could be minuscule. He wants to win a conference title. That would be his 3rd straight if he did, dating back to 2 straight in the Conference USA. But man, I don't know. I think there's a lot of noise and a lot of potential for a look at here. I think I lean USF with the points. Anything over 14, really.